Hi everybody, TJ Mac Vintage Cards and Nostalgia, and in today's video I'm doing part 2 of my top 50 countdown of my favorite players to collect. And just to restate from my last video, the players that you're going to see here are not cards that I only have one or two of, like a Jimmy Fox or a Mel Ott. It's going to be the players from the core of my collection, which are these player runs that I've assembled. And I probably have a couple hundred different player runs that I've put together. They may not be 100% complete, but they are for me as far as back as I want to go. And I'll talk to that as I go through each of the cards that I'm going to show. But what's cool about this is it's kind of the culmination of my 20 plus years of collecting since re-entering as an adult, is to show these player runs, which are really the centerpiece of how I collect. Because I just love to tell the history of the game through my cards. I love the artwork and just enjoy having some of the greats of their time in my collection. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with number 30 on my list, which is this 58 Topps Frank Gifford. So as far as his run of cards go, I have from his rookie year, 1952, all the way to 1960. He didn't have a card in 61 because he was knocked out by Chuck Minarik in 1960 and missed the entire 61 season. I have his 62 and 63 cards, and I don't have a 64, so it's the only one I still need. And I'll end up getting that one because I like that card. And this is just a nice classic football image here of really the player maybe most synonymous with the sport during that time. Maybe not so much now, but during the 1950s, he was in the media capital, so to speak, of the sports world in New York. And similar to Mickey Willie and the Duke, he was one of those centerpiece players. He got a lot of the endorsements during the day. He was very handsome, athletic, just could do so many things on the football field. He was a great receiver, running back, would also even throw the ball from time to time, and served as a kicker at times as well. So just one of the great all-around players of that period. Here's the back side of the card. So I think this is a good guy to have on my list here. And there he is, number 30, Frank Gifford. Number 29 is Bob Gibson. I have his Topps playing days run from 1959 to 1975. Again, these are just the base Topps cards from those years, not all-stars and the premium type cards they'd have and all that from that time. This is the base run from 59 to 75. And 1966 Topps is one of my favorite. I like the yellow and the red combinations there on the card. Nice image there, Bob Gibson. You can see some of the fans behind him. And he was probably one of the best pitchers of the 60s, certainly. Maybe the best, maybe him or Marichal. You could put Koufax in there too. He just didn't stay on top for as long as those guys did throughout the whole decade. He retired earlier, obviously. But he was utterly dominant when he was on the mound back then. So this is my Gibson card that I'm going to show. You can see the back here. Sorry for that little bit of glare. Nice salmon color back. And there's number 29. 28 on my list is Mean Joe Greene. I have his entire Topps run, 1971 to 1981. And 78 is probably my favorite, but I just showed that one not too long ago. I do like this 72, just like the yellow inset color there with the red lettering. I just like his expression as well in his face. Just looks like a pretty cool dude there. And certainly one of the best defensive tackles ever, and I would say the best of his era. Him and Alan Page. You get to see the back of the card. Mean Joe. Number 27 is one of my favorites, Jean Beliveau. 55 Parkhurst. This might be, I'd say, one of my top 10 favorite cards in my collection. I love this card. This is a third-year Beliveau card. So for him, I have his 55 Parkhurst and then his 68 to 70 Topps. So I'm still working on a lot of his run of cards. And it's something I'm going to be focusing more of my budget on next year, some of this vintage hockey. I really do enjoy it. And Beliveau was a classy player, probably one of the 2 or 3 best Canadians of all time that played Montreal Canadiens, I mean. I would say him, Rocket Richard, Guy LaFleur, Jacques Plante. They had a lot of great players in their history. He won 10 Stanley Cups and just known for his gracefulness, kind of quiet demeanor, and just a very classy guy and an outstanding player. Quite a large player for his day physically. He was a tough guy, but he wasn't dirty or, you know, somebody that would just pound on you, but you didn't want to mess with Jean Beliveau. Kind of reminds me of a Joe DiMaggio type character from that day and age. Number 26 is Ken Boyer. He's somebody I more recently have gotten into, and part of collecting a long time, a lot of my baseball player runs I put together 10 and 15 years ago, like Clemente and Mays and you know, Frank Robinson and guys like that were put together many years ago when I first got into collecting. So now I'm starting to add some newer players like Ken Boyer, and I've enjoyed learning a lot about him. The fact that he came up in the minor leagues as a pitcher, and he was such a good hitter that they converted him over to an offensive position player, probably a better way of saying it. He played third base and then played some outfield as well, and just one of the great players of his time. I would say he was probably the best third baseman in baseball in the early 60s, once Eddie Matthews was winding down some statistically, and before Brooks Robinson really took off. Ken Boyer may have been the best third baseman. Somebody I just have enjoyed learning a lot about. This is 63 Topps. For him, he had cards from 1955 to 1969. Right now I have his 56, 59, 63, and 64. So that's Ken Boyer. 25 on my list is this beautiful Bobby Lane card. He's my favorite quarterback of the early 50s. I just loved his attitude, what he brought to the game. Wasn't the most gifted passer, but he found ways to win games. He could run, get that ball out there when he needed to. He played for a crazy Detroit Lions team of that period. Very good defensive team, as well as they had some good offensive pieces as well. And the captain of this team was unquestionably Bobby Lane. And he had cards from 1948 Leaf until 1962 Topps. I have all his cards from 50 to 62. The Leaf 48 and 49 are the same card, just issued in 2 different years. I'll probably get the 49 just because it's not as expensive, and I just would like an example of that card. So that's the one I'm going to look to get. But this is just a beautiful card. I love these early Bowman's football cards. 24 on my list is Pete Rose. He had Topps Playing Days cards from 63 till 1987. I have all of them, including the 84 Topps Traded and even a 79 Topps Burger King, which is a different card of him. He's on the Phillies in 79. I don't have his rookie card, never will own it. It's just too expensive, and I'd want a nice copy, and I'm not going to pay what it's going for. I don't really like the card enough. So I'm happy with having the 64 to 87. He is somebody I've profiled on my channel in a video showing all my Topps run of his cards. I would like to see him get in the Hall of Fame at some point. I think we need to forgive and move on, but probably not going to happen anytime soon. But he is somebody that I think should be in Cooperstown. And this is number 24 on my list. Next up, we got Roberto Clemente, number 23. He had cards, Topps regular run from 55 till 73. I have all his cards with the exception of his rookie. I don't think I'll ever get his rookie because I just don't like the fact that it's a similar image to the 56. I like the 56 better. And if I was a hardcore Clemente collector, I certainly would get the rookie. I just don't want to put the money towards it, considering that I like his 56 more than the rookie, so I don't really see a need to add it. So I'm content with having 56 to 73 in my collection. Love this 63 example. My favorite card of his is probably 1960, but I like this one because it looks like he's finishing a throw there. I think that's his glove behind him. And just the 63 Topps is a nice set with the color on it. See that full blue bleed on the bottom there. Nice looking card. And 22 on my list is Bobby Clark. He played for he's one of the Broad Street Bullies of those mid-70s Flyers teams. MVP player, just somebody that I think, one of the top hockey players of all time, just great all-around player from his era. And this is a 71 Topps second year. For him, he had Topps and O-Pee-Chee cards from 1970 until 1983, I believe. I have all his cards from his rookie in 1970 until 1981, either Topps or O-Pee-Chee for each year, accordingly. So this is a 71 Topps. Just love that bubble lettering there, like I talked about in my last video with the Gilbert Parole. There's the back of the card. And just what I like about this card is that smug look on his face. That's Bobby Clark right there. Captures his personality very well. Number 21 on my list is Chuck Minarik. He's the one that knocked Frank Gifford out in 1960. And just one of the last of the great two-way players, as it was said. And he played every play in the 1960 season. He came back. He retired in 59, came back in 1960, played every play, defense, offense, and led the Eagles to the 1960 NFL championship. One of the great characters of his time. His first card is 48 Leaf, and he ran all the way to 1961. So for him, I have his 1950 to 1958 cards. He did not have a card in 59 because, like I said, he retired. And I have his 1960 and 61 Topps card. I just need a 61 Flair. So he's somebody I just love having in my collection. Just an awesome card here too, with him running out of the darkness. They got that bright green grass and the socks there. A very well coordinated card with just a fantastic image. Love it. Hoping I'm counting these right. Now I'm on to number 20, Brooks Robinson. I do have his entire player run from 1957 to 1977 Topps. And I think his 59 is my favorite card. I showed that one not too long ago, so I wanted to show the 69 Topps. Just like the great smile on his face there. And wonderful image. Just 69 Topps is one of the early sets I put together when I got back into the hobby, complete set. And this was one of the ones that I liked from it. I like that you can even see part of his name peeking out there in the photo. And just another of those salmon colored backs that Topps like to use during that era. Brooks Robinson, just a great guy and certainly one of the best defensive players ever to play the game. 19 on my list is Guy LaFleur. This is his rookie card, 1971 O-Pee-Chee. And for him, I have from 1971 all the way to 1984. I'm not sure when he stopped making cards, probably 1990-ish time frame, 89 or 90. I don't collect that late in hockey. And this card's really gone up quite a bit in value from when I bought it. It's pretty close to a comma card now, I believe. And he was probably the best player in hockey, non-goalie, I'd say, after Bobby Orr came out of his greatness in 74, 75 time frame, and before Wayne Gretzky really took off. Guy LaFleur probably would have been the best player in the late 70s. Just a great all-around player, outstanding skater, shooter, passer. He can do it all. And played for those dynasty Canadiens teams of the 1970s. One of my dad's favorite players. That's the main reason why I'm including him here. Makes me think of him. Number 18 is Dell Shoffner. He's a new addition to my collection, so to speak, in the last year. He's somebody I've learned a lot about. He's the only first-team, five-time All-Pro that's not in the Hall of Fame at wide receiver, and it's an outright shame. He may be one of the few in the entire time of football that's won that many All-Pros that's not in the Hall of Fame. I'm not sure about that, but he's somebody that really should be. He was a guy that, as I mentioned in other videos, the defenses would game plan for specifically. He had outstanding speed, and I just have really come to like him a lot as a player. Now, he has cards from 1959 to 1964. I have his 59 Topps, 61 Fleer. I need his Topps from that year, and his 64 Philadelphia cards. So, got some work to do on his player run, but that's one I do plan on completing because I really do enjoy having him in my collection. Number 17 is Roger Maris. I do have his complete player run from 1958 to 1968 Topps. I've profiled it in a video before, just like I did with the Pete Rose. I don't think I mentioned that, but I did a video on Pete Rose as well. All my cards of his that I have. And Maris, classy guy, a very quiet, understated person that really struggled, as many know, during that 61 season. This is probably not my favorite card of his. I like his 62 Topps. I showed that one not too long ago, but this is the card that I think of most when I think of Maris because of that historic 61 season. And I just love the 61 Topps set. So he was the second card in the set that year. There's the back. Just one I really do enjoy having. And number 16 is David Deacon Jones. And For him, he had cards from 63, didn't have one in 64, and then from 65 until 74. I have all his playing days, regular issued cards. My favorite's probably this one. This is a 66 Philadelphia, and just a great, stage pose of the time with his hands in front of him there. And I think he's arguably the best defensive end that ever played. Certainly put him up there with Reggie White, Bruce Smith, and Jack Youngblood. And I just, of his era, he certainly was the best, in my opinion. Played for that fearsome, foursome front line of the Rams that they had back during those days. And if sacks counted, I believe he would be the third all-time sack leader from his era. When I say if sacks counted, it wasn't an official stat until 1982. So all throughout his entire career, sacks were unofficial. But if you used his unofficial numbers, he would be third all-time in NFL history in sacks. Great, great player. Number 15 for me is Joe Morgan. I have all his cards from 65 tops till 1985 tops, which is his entire run. And he's just somebody that I don't think he's underrated. I'm not going to say that. He's one of those great, great players that maybe is not talked about as being a great, great player. I think everybody knows that he's a Hall of Famer, knows about how great he played in the 1970s, winning those two MVPs in 75 and 76, and just all the things he did to get teams into the playoffs even later into his career. He's one of those guys you'd acquire if you wanted to make a playoff run. And really one of those guys that was small in stature but did a lot of big things on the field. And I think his 75 season was probably one of the 20th top 20 best seasons of the 20th century. If you look at those numbers and what he did that year, and maybe the best season of the 1970s. That was just such a spectacular season that he had in 75. This is a 76 Topps card, or a 66 Topps card, I'm sorry. And here he's depicted on the Houston Astros. And number 14 is the great Gordie Howe, Mr. Hockey, and I call him the father of modern-day hockey. This is a 67 Topps card. I think it's my favorite card of his. I have his 57 Topps, 67 Topps, and then and all the way to 71. So I have 67 to 71. Then he didn't have cards for a few years, and then he picked up again in 75, and I have all of his cards from 75 until he retired in 79. So I do have some work to do on him prior to 66, and I plan on doing that this year, picking up some of his cards. He is, I think, grossly underpriced for how good a player he was. I mean, he's one of the top 3 players to ever play hockey, in my opinion, and I think you can make a case he might be the best of all time. One of the great, great players. Love that blue background on this card, off that red sweater there with the full uniform. And you got the red lettering underneath. Just a beautiful card. And number 13 is Hank Aaron, shown here as a left-handed hitter when he was really a right-handed hitter. And I have his cards I have his 55 Bowman and 1956 Topps all the way till he retired in 76. So I only need his 55 Topps and 54 Topps, which I'll probably never own. I'm just not that interested in owning them. I'm happy with having what I have, the 55 and then 56 all the way to 75. And this is just a beautiful card of his as well. I know a lot of people don't like the 57 Topps set. The photography looks kind of dark on it, but I just think this is a nice image with that great big headdress there on the Indian on his sleeve. Classic 50s card, in my opinion. And I just have a lot of respect for Hank Aaron. I saw him in an interview in 1979 on a Dick Cavett show with Mickey Mantle, Hank Aaron, Leo DeRocher, and there was an umpire on there as well. And just to hear Mickey Mantle talk about Hank Aaron and how underrated he was during his time, he just had the utmost respect for him and thought he was maybe the best player of that era. Certainly the most underrated in his view. Mainly because he played for Milwaukee and not in later Atlanta and not in New York. And number 12 on my list is Lance Allworth. He's my favorite receiver of all time. I have his rookie card 63 and 64. I don't have the tall boy 65. I don't collect tall boys. And then I have from 66 to 72. He did make a card in 73. I got to get that one still. My favorites is 67 Topps. I've profiled Allworth before on my channel in my AFL case build that I'm working on. I got to get another video out on that. And I just love this pose of him with that ball up over his head there. It looks like you'd see his knee in the air, obviously, if they showed the full card outside of this oval shot here. And I like the Chargers up in the corner there on each side. This nice bright back here on this card. Just love that Allworth. And the last card for today, number 11, is a 72 top Steve Garvey. Garvey had cards from 71 tops until 1987 tops. I have all of them up through 85. I need the 86 and 87 still. I have them in my sets, but I don't have a graded version for display. But they are in my sets. But the 72 is my favorite. Garvey, to me, was the player in the National League when I was growing up. I'm shocked that he's not in the Hall of Fame. If you would have told me that as a kid, I would have thought you were crazy, just because he was really the face of the National League for some of those years in the late 70s, early 80s. And my favorite card of him is the 72. He made so many nice cards, though. So there you have it. That's my cards from number 30 to number 11. Next week, I'll do 10 through 1. Everybody have a great weekend.